Welcome to DeFi Expectations. Today we are interviewing Artist the Bob from the iAMs NFT project. I'm really excited about this one. I stumbled upon the project probably about 2 weeks ago while I was on Twitter, and I thought it was just really neat. So I definitely wanted to try and reach out to him and get this on. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Please follow us on Twitter at DeFi Expectation. And yeah, let's get into this. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on and inviting me in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank
Happy
you
to have
very
you.
much for making some time to hop on with us. So yeah, I guess let's start out by just talking a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
much, I know that you're Anon, so
Yeah.
go ahead and give us what you need to.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing in terms of me, I've been doing 3D for a long time and I was kind of looking for, I guess, a new outlet. So in the traditional 3D space, if you will, I guess I've developed a sort of a style, and I guess there are certain expectations for what you should make next. And then I sort of stumbled upon NFTs and saw what people were doing. And I've always wanted to create something that was different, something that I could just play around with and have fun with, something that was kind of a break from what I would normally do. And that's sort of how everything evolved into the iAMs project, the way it is currently, at least.
So how long have you actually been creating digital art then?
Oh, it's probably like 15, 20 years at this point. Yeah.
That's a while. Like I originally a long time ago, I wanted to be a video game designer. And so I actually took some 3D design classes when I was younger, like the end of high school. But we were also pretty broke back then. So I had like no equipment at my own disposal. So like everyone else was like able to do all sorts of stuff. And I was like making, I think I was using like 3D Max and Rhino, if you've ever used those.
Yeah, I started out with 3D Studio Max back in the day. So
yeah, I've also used a Morpheum like way before that. So I never really like got a chance to progress into too many other things. And I found out it was very difficult to do. I think it's a lot easier now, at least, because the tools are much more extensive that are available. But yeah, back then I was like, oh God, I suck at this.
I mean, both tools, but also, education and the type of education that you can find online. I remember back in the day when I got started, maybe a couple of years after I started looking into courses from the Gnomon Workshop. And the Gnomon Workshop was really the only thing that was creating, at least that I stumbled upon, like these high quality courses. But I don't know, I was, 15 at the time, 14, 15, and I couldn't afford to spend $60 on like some online course. So you just kind of had to figure things out by yourself and find some kind of crappy tutorials online.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, back during that time, like, I'm not sure how old you are. I'm 36. So
yeah, I'm in around 30s as well. So
yeah, so I was like 17 back then. And like I said, we didn't have the ability to have any software. So it was just that one time for, 1 or 2 hours every day when I would go to the class. And I have some kind of issue with reading. Like I write for a living, and yet reading just doesn't work in my brain. So like the teacher did not teach at all. He gave you a book and he's like, there you go. And then he would spend the whole entire class just playing Neil Young on repeat. And so I'm just like, I have no idea what's going on the whole time. And I would just see people like starting to develop like complex characters and machine guns firing around me. And I'm like, well, I made the teapot that comes standard with the I even watched like my old stuff the other day and showed it to my girlfriend. I'm like, here's all the horrible crap I made while I was in this class.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been there with the horrible stuff. It takes, and I think that's where it's hard to accept for a lot of people, that it's like it's visual and you can see what you're doing, but it still takes 10 years to get pretty good at what you're doing, no matter what it is. And so I think a lot of people tend to fall off the wagon there at some point.
Yeah. It's hard to stay dedicated to stuff
Mm,
unless, you know, it's really a passion of yours. And then you gotta kind of make time for it, especially if it's not the way that you're earning an income at that time too.
yeah. And I think at that point, I guess I was kind of fortunate that I found it at such a young age,
Mhm.
because it meant that, I mean, when you're 15, you have nothing else to do really.
Yeah,
So I would just, come home from school, I'd turn on the computer and I would just start doing more 3D.
that's good.
Yeah, on your profile, it mentions that these are handmade NFTs. Can you explain more about the design process of creating iAMs?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's when I first started looking at NFTs like this time around, back in 2017, I didn't really get it. So, but when it sort of had its resurgence here back in March, I started looking at other projects and I noticed that the vast majority were collectibles. And I really liked the idea of doing a collectible series, but I don't know how to code. I'm not a developer. And I saw all these 10K projects. And I'm like, okay, that's super smart if you can do it. But the only way I can do this is just creating them one at a time. So I guess my strength or my weakness was kind of what led me to just make everything by hand. So that's kind of what I mean by handmade. So everything is, there are certain elements that I'll reuse, like the hair or the glasses or, the base shape of the iAMs, but then I'll custom fit and custom make new accessories or items for certain or for all the characters, really.
And what do you use to design them?
Everything is done pretty much on the fly in Blender. And for some of the more advanced things, I'll use a software called ZBrush, which is it's a sculpting software. And like it was like this cheese one. Yeah, it was a cheese one with a mustache, I think. I had to do some kind of Boolean operation where you would subtract something from the mesh and make it look droopy. So that's like hand sculpted in 3D in order to get that feel. And so it's a mix of those things, but pretty much the design process it's happening on the fly.
Excellent. And how many different characteristics are designed into each of these? They all look really unique.
Oh, that's really hard to say because they've divided by, like, if you go really like the big overview of these are that they're divided into classes. Like you've got humans, elementals, vampires, demons, apes, that kind of stuff. And if you take a look at some of the elementals, for example, they're super clean and as basic as they can be. Maybe they just have a color and then just the base iAM shape and nothing more. And so, but if you take it, the other extreme, I did a collaboration with Ape Gang not too long ago, where we were doing this giveaway, number 195, I believe. And that one, I just went crazy. It has like the zebra texture and a rainbow headband. It's got hair and it's obviously an ape. So I mix and match a lot. So it's really hard to say, actually.
Or would you say that some designs are more rare than others, or since they're all unique, they're all pretty much just as rare?
That's actually a conversation I've had a lot with the members in my Discord, because when I first started out, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I looked into traits, right? So all the 10K projects have like 700 traits, and these are more rare and these are less rare. But I figured it's going to take way too long to do this stuff. But then I think around a month ago, when we were at maybe 120, 150 or something like that, it actually started to make sense to me to introduce some traits, but mostly for filtering, but then also sort of trying to think ahead a little bit. Maybe in the future, when the collection is complete, there might be some collectors that would sort of prioritize traits over the design. But all in all, at least what the Discord is telling me is that they like them because they are so unique, each of them, that they almost don't need traits. So
That's how I feel about them. Yeah, it's like and the more I see, I haven't scrolled through the whole collection yet, but like the more that I just randomly see them, I'm like, I don't know, there's some affinity that I'm like drawn to with these.
yeah.
How
And I
many
think
projects have you dropped before?
I think this was my first. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is my first. Yeah, this is my first. And then I've experimented with other things, but this was pretty much, I think originally what inspired me to do this was the Habibis, I think they're called, and The Boys by Larona, like all the stuff that was on Rareable back in February and March. I looked at those 3D collections and thought, well, that's pretty cool that there are also 3D collectibles, because I had mostly seen punks and, punk derivatives, other 2D pixel art things. And then I saw the 3D collectibles and saw that there was at least some interest when it came to those. And that's kind of why I decided to do that as well.
What was the process like introducing iAMs into the community and starting to get a following for them?
Oh man, that's really hard, because like I have a presence online as my real self. So, but like we talked about in the beginning, I'm interested in staying anonymous, and I wanted to do something that didn't really fall into the category of what I would usually do.
Is that your cheese guy you were talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to just start from scratch and see what I could do. And back in March, like the way people grew was through shill posts. It sounds weird saying back in March, as if like, okay, that's like 10 years ago. Do you know how things move in NFT space? So I think for the first month, it was all waking hours on Twitter, just posting and posting and posting and posting under every single post I could find that would sort of let me post my work. I've never gone into DMs and sort of indiscriminately just shilled my work, but for the posts that were like encouraging you to share your work for whatever reason, I tended to post there a lot. And I think the first month that was pretty rough, because it was really hard getting any kind of engagement, because no one knows you, no one knows your project yet. But just, I guess, organic growth through being a little relentless on Twitter in the beginning.
I feel that's probably how I found you, was like, because I've started following like a lot of the influential NFT people on Twitter recently. And I'm sure that that's probably how I saw you, as somebody was like, I want to buy an NFT today, post what you got. And I was just scrolling through and saw one of yours, and I was like, oh, I like that.
I think the shill posts are definitely getting less common because people are tired of it. Mm-hmm. I think because like in March and April, when it was like what everyone was doing, that's all you would see in your feed. Like Twitter would just show you the same 10 posts from the same person who would share the same tweet to everyone.
Yeah.
And so I started noticing that. So I would customize each tweet as well. It would take twice as long, but I customized every tweet to the person to make sure that it seemed more personal and not just like a copy paste message.
So are you talking about like adding them, or are you talking like they would make a post and then you would respond?
Yeah, I would respond to their posts. So, because that was the thing. I think my very first post was something like I had seen the whales that would buy like for really high amounts. And so in my first couple of posts, I would just tag them and I would get like no engagement, And so I don't know if I'm blocked by those people now, probably because it was just annoying. Like some dude with like one follower, like, hey, buy my NFTs. They're really great.
And how are they priced on release? Do you price them all pretty similarly and let the market kind of find a price, or do you do them differently based on how much time they took? Or
it's actually changed a little bit, because when I started the collection, they were priced pretty similarly. Right now, I think, the drop price is around 0.05 Ethereum per iAM. And I think it was something similar when I started. And then I increased the price too fast. Like I had seen some momentum building up in the project, and I basically increased the price by like 10x, right? And I sold for a couple of days at that price, and then people lost interest. And it was right around the time of like, I think iAM number 100, which was an animated iAM. So it was like my first animated iAM that one took me weeks to make, and I increased my price and no one was buying from me anymore. And that completely like demotivated me. So I actually stepped away for a few months. So now coming back, I wanted to make sure that I sort of changed my strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategy has just been, okay, I don't really care that much about the price. Of course, it's nice to make some money so I can keep investing into this. But the most important thing was getting as many iAMs into as many people's hands as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think I'll be going much above this 0.05 Ethereum price really ever. But for the animated iAMs that I do, they're usually priced higher just because they take so much longer to make.
Yeah, and I would think at this point, you've probably got a big enough following where people are willing to pay more for the animated ones. I think you would probably still like just sell out instantaneously with those now. Because people would know those are unique and they're worth paying that for, you know?
Yeah, I think the drop price for the animated ones has varied between 0.25 and half an Ethereum. Gotcha. And it's been like that since I came back. But I think at this point, yeah, realistically, I could probably raise the drop price to like 0.1, maybe 0.15, and people would still buy it and it would still sell out. But again, like the whole mission now is to make sure that it's accessible also for newer people entering the space that might not have that much money, that are just interested in getting something that's, I guess, in my perspective, a little more unique.
Like what exactly motivates you to do certain characters? Because some of them are, you know, I guess more just your style versus sometimes I'll see like Thunder Mouse right there. We have Squad right there. I see right below Fry, if you scroll down a little, we have a Pudgy Penguin essentially over there. And then we also have, you know, one of the CryptoPunk aliens right there. And then sometimes like I'll see the guy right above that that's like the red and black striped one, which kind of looks like what were those, the project that was really popular for a while? It's not Hashmass, but something that kind of looks like that's in like a 3D look as well. Do you remember the name of that?
Is it Gummos?
Oh, the boys, that's what it is. Those were, especially on Rarible, I would see them as one of the main projects. And I just recently saw this little Alf Den moving guy the other day. So I thought that was too.
Yeah, so I guess it's a combination of a lot of different things. Like if you look at the early iAMs, they're all very, very basic. And, you know, looking at like 200 plus, they've started becoming a lot more advanced, like a lot more colorful. And I'm playing around with the shapes and accessories a lot more. But it's a mix of things that I guess I grew up with in my childhood, things I found interesting. If I watched any comics, played any video games, something like that, or if there's something pop culture wise that I thought has been interesting or relevant at some point that's had an impact on my life, then I'll bring it to iAMs. That's kind of been my, I guess, thought process behind all of it.
And then, so like how many do you make these basically like every day? Cause you release 3 a day.
Yeah.
So
every day.
Make them the day before, you'll make that whole brand new series like that day.
Up until this point, it's been making them every single day. So it's been a little bit tough because it's 3 every day. So I'm trying to build up like a small backlog so
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Just get a little bit of a break. So I can at least just focus on the release, because when I do drops, that still takes like, I don't know, 2 hours out of my day. And, you know, I have a job and family stuff on the side as well. So it's, you know, you got to figure out how can we make this all work. And I think eventually, I say eventually, it probably won't be very long from now, I'll start decreasing how many iAMs I drop every day, probably down to 2. And then maybe at some point, maybe 1 a day. It's a way for me to keep this thing interesting and keep it going. Because this whole daily drop thing is not something that I've really seen anywhere else. I think nouns do it. But again, that's a generative project, right? So it's automatic. They get one out and it's done. But when it comes to these handmade projects, I haven't really seen. I might be wrong, but I haven't seen it be done every single day so far.
So I was going to ask, but you just answered that. If you do have a regular day job at this point still, or if you have fully transitioned to this project.
So, no, I run my own company.
Cool. Okay. That's good. You don't have to necessarily quit your day job then, because
no, exactly.
Yeah, hopefully, I assume then, is that in the 3D animation environment something?
Yeah, exactly. So
that's cool. So yeah, at least you're not motivated to have to get out of your shitty day job.
No, that's still, that's still nice to have.
Yeah.
And I love to keep that thing going because it's something that I built. So, if there's a way to marry these two projects to make them coexist in a more balanced way, that would definitely be nice. That's sort of what I'm looking for. But getting back into the space, I thought it was important to make it known that the iAMs were still here and it was an active project. And I think the best way that I could think of that was doing daily drops, because everyone's reminded every single day, and the Discord goes crazy, when there's a drop, because people, this, you still haven't been able to get one.
No, you know what sucked? I think it was yesterday. I was just I got in there and it was 1 minute before, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get this drop. And I got on OpenSea and I got it, but OpenSea kept airing out. And I'm like, no, God damn it.
Yeah. And that's sort of why, in the beginning, it was just all three were just dropped on OpenSea, and it was sort of a bloodbath. People went in there, they started bidding, everyone lost thousands of dollars in gas. I got angry DMs from people telling me that I stole their money. I'm like, it's not my fault that, gas is a thing. So people have been suggesting ways around that. That's why we do a raffle now.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a chance to do private buy, and also why I'm experimenting with auctions, again, to give people an option to bid on something without having to lose on gas.
Yeah.
So it's very much a community project, because I don't find it interesting just to sit in my room alone, creating these things, releasing them, and then just going to bed. I think that's one of the bigger differences from back when I started to now. I didn't have a Discord the first time around, and I was just releasing, release, go to bed. But now with the Discord, I've never really been a Discord person, but I think creating the Discord it's the most important thing that I ever did for the project, because it keeps me motivated. And it's just really, I think we've managed as a community to create a pretty wholesome Discord where people can just share stuff and we just chat all day, and it's generally a good time.
Yeah, I remember you posting that somewhere. I don't know if it was on the Discord or if it was on Twitter, saying that, the Discord, you believe, is what lends to the project's success ultimately, and that you don't think it would be what it was without that.
No, 100%. I mean, at this point, Twitter is a secondary thing for me. I still, spend time on Twitter and market the project, but I want to cater as much as I can to the Discord members, because those are ultimately the ones that are engaging with it on a daily basis and who've shown like a super big interest in the project. So I try my best to focus my attention on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Twitter for you at this point would probably be finding new people and hooking them, and then the Discord's where everyone's already clamoring for them.
Yeah. I think that's right.
What kind of event are you having on the Discord right now? It looks like you're doing some type of giveaway or something.
So I just introduced Fusions for iAMs. It's sort of our way of doing breeding. I wanted to do something. I didn't want to just do breeding because it felt like it's like an animal thing. And I thought about the iAMs are they're characters, they're humans, they're demons, and the whole, I don't know, the connotations with breeding just sounded weird to me. So I renamed it Fusions. But essentially I guess it's like a community effort project thing where you enter a raffle if you have more than 2 iAMs, and then you get a chance to win a fusion device. If you win that fusion device, you select 2 or up to 3 iAMs that you want to fuse together to create like a new super iAM. And sort of I'll work with the people that win and sort of try and make this new version of an iAM where they have a say in what happens, and they're kind of part of the creation process, so to speak.
And I had a question, kind of going back to OpenSea as well. What made you decide to do your drop on OpenSea, and did you consider any other networks or platforms for your NFT drop?
Yeah, that was purely a money thing, because when I first got into the space, I didn't know how things worked, and I found out that on Rarible, I had to pay every single time I needed to mint, and I saw the way that some of the other 3D collectible projects were doing it, that, they would maybe do like not one-of-ones, but like editions of 10 or 50 or something. And then it's fine that you just, you pay $50 for a mint, and there's 50 versions of the same character and sells out. But because I wanted all these to be unique, I had to mint every single time I wanted to just release one character. Found OpenSea, found out that they had lazy minting, which essentially means I don't have to pay anything when I mint. And so kind of just went with that because of that.
Did they have that ability back when you started? I don't think so, right? I think they still charged you. Is that correct?
No, I think maybe they just introduced it then when I got started, because I've never had to pay to mint on Open. You pay for the first one to like create the contract or whatever. And then all subsequent ones are free to do.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that helps a lot. And when people have asked me before as well, like where should they go? I always recommend OpenSea, because especially when you're starting out, you probably don't have any money to mint a lot because it's expensive with gas. And so OpenSea is great for that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what are you hoping to achieve with iAMs? Like, when you look at the vision of this project, maybe 6 months to a year from now, are you hoping to be the next CryptoPunks? Are you just happy to have them be what they are? What's kind of your goal?
Well, like a month and a half ago, we had done 5 Ethereum in volume, and now we've done over 40. And so that growth to me has just been crazy. And I look at some of the other projects, and I feel like there's definitely room for like a go-to 3D collectible project. And so I want to keep supporting this, because I would love for this to become like a household name within the NFT space. And I'll do whatever I can to really push that. It's interesting because I guess the low supply compared to some of the other bigger projects like apes or punks or penguins, whatever it may be. But I really feel like there is room for the more, let's call it, exclusive projects in that whole sphere as well. So yeah, getting iAMs into as many hands as possible and just making it a household name, that would be the ultimate dream for this project.
Do you think, like at some point, do you feel like you might be able to completely dedicate yourself to this project, or would you still want to work on your other that you are working on as your normal business right now?
I'd probably do both. Yeah, I'd probably do both.
That kind of made me think of another question too. Like, so I don't know what your other project is, or if you technically like do, if it's not necessarily a project more so, but it's just like, your business. But would you ever, if it is a project, kind of drop like an homage to, that project as an iAM, just like in a really low key way?
Probably not. No, I'd want to keep those pretty separate. So
Gotcha.
they wouldn't really mix, I think. So without saying too much.
Okay, that's interesting. So I was kind of wondering, like, back to the Discord, how hard is it to kind of set up your own Discord and manage the whole thing yourself?
Well, when you're like me and you know absolutely nothing, super hard, but I've been told that it's super easy. So like when I had to figure out all the permission stuff, getting things set up and stuff, like Discord is super easy to use. So I think once you've done it, once you've made one server, it's fairly trivial to do again. But I think one of the things that really elevated the Discord to the next level was that pretty early on, there was a guy called Shady that got involved with the project. I think he couldn't afford the floor price of the iAMs. So another collector basically sold him an iAM for, I think, below floor price, pretty close to mint, just so he could get one. And he started chatting, and fairly early on, he was really engaged. So I made him a moderator, not because I needed any, but I don't know, it just seemed like kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
And he's been an absolute champ, like creating bots and commands and setting everything else up. So, that's really been, I guess, the backbone of everything nice about the Discord, things that I don't know how to do.
What's kind of funny is like going back to the Discord, because like I said, I've been trying to get one ever since and just haven't. And it occurred to me at one point, I was about to post this because, like, okay, back in the day, you know how like if you're at a drinking fountain and somebody's like, they're like, save some for the whales if you're drinking too much. And I was about to post that. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's already what's happening. Goddamn. I'm like,
yeah,
like, save some not for the whales.
Yeah, it's kind of like a running joke whenever we do the raffles, because I post it on Twitter as well, and people are like, no, don't do that. Don't post it on Twitter. It'll just bring more people and our chances will decrease.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be at least like 50 plus people vying for these things every day, at least.
I think like if you like look based on the raffles, I think you can get a pretty good idea of how many people would actually actively try to buy.
Yeah.
Like, so for a raffle nowadays, we get maybe like 80 entrants or something like that. So I don't know, maybe like a third of that would actively try to buy, which is a lot of people that lose gas because only one person gets it.
Yeah.
So yeah, sad about that.
So like I mean, the way that you kind of release now is usually I'll see at least one of them is raffle. One of them is just a straight drop. And then the other, it seems like you do like different types of auctions on. So is that kind of like a way that you plan on doing it for a while, you think? Like, has that been working out pretty well?
I think so, because I was pretty hesitant about the auctions in the beginning, because I had tried to do auctions before and they had just bombed. Like, no one had bid on them. To be fair, it was the animated ones and they were a lot more expensive. And with the animated ones, they tend to be super specific, right? So you might need someone, like, they're very niche sometimes. So you might need someone who just likes that, and it's animated and it's more expensive in order to sell it. But ever since I started doing raffles with the more normal iAMs, auctions with the more normal iAMs, it's been going amazingly. And usually they sell for, well, I think we've done 3. So usually might be a bit much, but they sold for something like 0.3, 0.5, and around 0.6.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And obviously that's crazy amounts compared to what I normally do, but it's not so much because of the money when it comes to the auctions, but it's because of what it does to the volume. And it's it's a very strategic thing for me, because if we can push up the volume faster, that helps gets more attention to the project, I think. Especially like the people that are looking to buy in big, they would look at a project and see, okay, there's been a lot of volume movement here in a very short amount of time. Maybe there's some potential in this project. So that's kind of been my thinking.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of reminds me of like what Burning Man does now with the tickets, where it's like they'll do, the low income releases, which is like raffles. Then they'll do, the really expensive ones for people who are, they got as much money as they possibly need, and those people are willing to pay 2 or 3 times the even normal ticket price.
Yeah.
And then you've got essentially the one that you just put right out there, which is standard.
Yeah, I think it's so many things with this project is just accidental. you know. People ask me about like a grand vision and like, oh, what's the roadmap like? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just do this thing because I think it's fun, and I get to experiment. And so far, it seems to be working. People like that general attitude towards things. It keeps it loose. It keeps it more, I don't know, organic. I feel I'm not that restricted by any rules that I guess haven't set for myself with a project like this.
And I mean, in your opinion, what do you think people are like connecting with these characters about? Do you think it's the fact that like, you know, you're doing some characters that they enjoyed? Do you think it's like the shape and the design itself, or like the collectability aspect? Like what part of it do you think connects with everyone?
I think it's a mix of things. Like some of them are connecting with characters that I've done that have inspired me in the past. Let's say I'm always hesitant to say, you know, the real character, because it's like, okay, what about copyright? But I did a version of Batman, for example, very early on, I think number 11 or something like that. He's called Darkness. He's not called Batman. He's called Darkness. And he has this super shitty logo on his suit or whatever that kind of looks like, I don't know, a melted bat or something. But his name is Darkness, so he's clearly not Batman. But you know, some people will connect with him because they're like, okay, maybe I watched Batman, the animated show or something, so I'll get it. But I think the coolest thing I hear is when someone tells me that they either look like the iAM that they're buying, or that someone they know looks like the iAM that they're buying. So there's like this real world connection with an iAM. That I think is super cool.
I've seen, I've seen like, do you know Art Chick on Twitter? Yeah. So I've noticed that she seems to collect a lot of characters that look like either her or her persona. So yeah, I can definitely like see people doing that. I mean, I'd love to get to the point where I could do that when it comes to, you know, characters where I'm just like, oh, look it's me, you know?
Yeah.
I would love to see that. In fact, right now we're actually having the art designed for the episode. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what to do, but I'm basically like, okay, I'm thinking like, we're going to have your little character right there that you use as your avatar, and then have her kind of draw Fry and I as iAMs. And then nice. The other thing I'm kind of thinking, and if I could get like a little more information about the new Fusions project, because I'm kind of wondering if maybe we could do something like that in the background for it, just to kind of enhance the background.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I mean, can you kind of lend some more information about that? Like, and where do you think that that new edition is really going to take the project?
I think it could I think it's going to go like two ways, actually. There's going to be the people where they fuse two iAMs that are sort of meant for each other, you know, and they produce something that's really nice. And then there's going to be the fusions that are just not compatible, but I'll make them anyway. But I guess with this whole thing, it's like, I want to make something that's still nice. I don't want to make something that's crappy, even though they don't fit together, right? So this is just going to be more of a challenge for me. But yeah, it's this whole collaboration thing. I say collaboration, it's a weird kind of collaboration because most of the traits are random. But then just to give you some background on that, I did like a secondary project called 3D Ether Rock as well, where for any iAM holder for like a 3-day period, I think it was, they could claim a 3D Ether rock for free. And they would just get a random rock. And the rocks are like, there's a regular rock, there's a blue gem, there's a green gem, a red gem, a purple gem, and a gold stone or gold rock. And depending on which type of rock you have, you get more of a say in what happens during the fusions. So if you have a regular rock, you get to decide one trait that's guaranteed to carry over to the fused iAM. And the more rare your rock is, the more traits you get to decide carry over. And that's where the collaborative aspect comes in, I think, because then I can have a conversation with the collector and be like, okay, what do you want? And they're like, okay, I want the electric quirk to carry over, and I want them to have shades, and I want them to have a hat or something like that. And then, we could go back and forth. I'd be like, okay, I don't think the hat's going to work really well. Are you sure? I can definitely do it, but I don't think it would work. And so it's going to be interesting having someone else involved in the design process like that, because usually I'm used to just going at this myself.
And where do you see the future of the project going, like both in terms of price, collectability, and then possibly other additions like the fusions? Like, do you have the possibility of creating more that you've thought of? Or do you think that like the fusions is going to be, that one thing for this project that you're going to do additionally?
I'm definitely open to doing other things, because when I started the project, it was just going to be still, iAMs that you're just like in a fixed position. But then we approached number 100, and I thought, okay, it could be cool to do a few animated iAMs. So we did animated iAMs, and now, I don't know, I think we have like 5 or 6 animated iAMs. So they're still pretty rare because they take a lot of time to do. And I was just scrolling through Twitter, and then I saw another project. It's a 2D project called Pigos, and she was talking about doing breeding for her project. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, because then you can mix and match and you can create something super unique. And so, who knows, after like number 400 or something, I might discover another thing that could be cool to introduce. Mm-hmm. So I don't really want to restrict myself with this project and be like, okay, we're done. We've developed everything that can be developed. If there are improvements or suggestions, that's something that I want to take on board.
Yeah, and it's cool that you do have such a strong community, because I'm sure people could possibly propose that kind of a thing, and then if it was something that was interesting to you, you could just be like, yeah, I actually really like that concept.
And that's what we currently do with sort of iAM suggestions, where the community will constantly tag me and say, okay, it'd be cool if we could do like a Bob Ross one, for example. That one came up a lot recently. Or I don't know, like a Mr. Potato Head or something like that. And because when you have to do 500, it gets really hard. We're almost at 250, and it's really hard already. Mm-hmm. I released this vampire Smith looking dude with a mustache yesterday, I think it was. And after I'd released it, I was like, wait a minute, this looks familiar. And then I scrolled back, and then maybe 20 or 30 iAMs before that, I had made one that was essentially the same. Like the only difference is the apron, and the other iAM is wearing like a sun hat or something, like a sun visor. I was like, God damn. Okay. So, if you're not careful with this, I think your brain just goes on autopilot and you end up making the same iAMs again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good. I mean, like, it seems, because there is so many 10,000 piece NFT projects, it kind of, it's like, it sounds like it's easy to create so many unique ones, but when you're having to do all the ideas, I guess not.
Yeah, when you have to do it manually, then it's easy to, I guess, reuse things without thinking about it.
Yeah,
probably makes it easier, the fact that you don't restrict yourself at all, though. Like you said, you have different designs. They could take inspiration from like Batman, or I saw a Hitman Agent 47 one. I think that's probably super helpful with your creativity, that you're not restricted in where you'll go with the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess like my last question pretty much is just like, when this is done, you're about halfway through, I think right now. You said, what are you nearing the 230 probably, I think, is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
You're about halfway through. If you were doing even 3 a day for the next like couple days, then you've got a little ways to go on finishing up this project. But what happens after this project hits 500 and you've completed it?
Oh, yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I have, I want to keep supporting this project. I don't know how, when you're not really creating any more iAMs, because I've said from the beginning, there's going to be 500 and that's it. I don't really want to do like a derivative project or something that's still related to iAMs, because I think maybe that would it would pull down the value of the iAMs, because then okay, now I have iAMs generation 2. Oh, okay, so there aren't 500, there's 500 plus the new ones. So I wanted to be careful about that, but I have an idea for like a super realistic 3D avatar project where it's maybe even more exclusive, maybe like only 100 avatars or something like that. But something kind of inspired by I think it was like the Oni or Oni project or something like that. That's very there was such distinct style with that side profile project, and they had a lot of really cool designs. If I could do like something like that in 3D, but to a really high level, I think that could be interesting. But anything's possible. Now I just got to focus on finishing up all 500, and then I guess we'll see.
And yeah, that actually brought out 2 new questions for me. So after the project is done, would you ever consider possibly working with someone who's, a Solidity developer or programmer who maybe would be able to help you do like an auto generate one? Or is that like something that you'd rather keep to more of a personalized aspect?
That could definitely be interesting. I'm looking at what the guys over at Mechaverse is doing with like those what's it called? Transformers like stylized robots. And I feel like that's kind of a hybrid project where it's a generative or like generated designs, but they're all made from real 3D pieces. If I could do something like that, that would be really cool. But yeah, I would need a developer for that for sure.
I don't know how I forgot to ask this in the first place, but how did you come up with the project name?
That's a very good question. I mean, the essence behind every single iAM is that, I think I write that in the description as well, is that iAMs are like a representation of everything you can be or want to be.
Yeah.
And so I wanted people to take a look at iAMs and find at least one that they could identify with, be like, this is me, or I can relate to that. So it was that was the thinking. I am this, I am. That was kind of my thinking.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, that's it for me. Fry, do you have anything else?
No, that was pretty much it. Just if there's any other links or ways people can contact with you that you'd like to share.
Everything is just, through Twitter. And through Twitter, you can get access to the Discord. And I would love for more members to join the Discord, because that's how we get them hooked on iAMs.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely put some links.
That's awesome. What you got to do. You have to give the first iAM out for free, and then they're hooked.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a drug.
Users for life. All right, cool. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. No,
hopefully we'll be keeping in touch.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really had to share anything when it came to the iAMs before. It's always just been focused on the little Twitter sphere and whatever happens on Discord. So it's been really cool to talk to someone about the project more in depth. So thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully after this is all done, I can hop over in the Discord and try my luck again.
Every day.
We will see.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we will talk soon. You have a good one.
You
Thanks
too.
again.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.